How to get to yourself when there's nothing left to give. Wow, this is a powerful topic that was brought to me by our special guest today, Mary Jane McQueen, who was once told she was too sensitive and too kind for the corporate world. Now, Mary Jane has come to use those very qualities as her strength and her superpowers as she redirected herself through the changes that, of course, the pandemic brought on, like for many of us. And what I love is that her journey is really one of courage, transformation, and choosing to lead with heart over fear. And that's an inspiring reminder that what once felt like weaknesses can actually become the key to living with joy. So let's meet her. Welcome, Mary Jane. I'm so excited for you to be here today.
I'm so honored to be here with you as well. Looking for the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Because we are givers, we're helpers, we're, ones that are called into service. And so I think this is a really important topic because sometimes we can engage in circumstances or even our own behaviors and thoughts that can deplete us, that can drain us. And it's really important to replenish that. Of course, we're limitless beings. Energy is always available to us, but we also need to access that and know what works for us to be able to give that to ourselves so that we can continue giving to the world and really just starting with the self and letting that have a ripple effect. So thank you for being here and helping us delve into this a little bit more. But before we do, I'm curious what lit your path through the corporate world? What was it that brought you into what you're doing now? And maybe share a little bit about that too.
Yeah, well, I worked for 31 years in corporate marketing, and it's definitely an interesting space to be in. I loved it because of the creativity and most of all because of the people.
Mm,
Um, but, for the last, say, 2.5 years of my corporate career, there was an element of corporate bullying happening. And so over and over again, I heard the story of you're too sensitive, you're too kind, you're too this, and you're too that. And for me, that was it took me a long time to really come to terms with what they were actually saying to me.
mhm.
Because I thought to myself, but how can you be too kind? How can you be too sensitive? Because for me, as I've come to see it now, as I've worked through my journey after leaving corporate, you know, I've come to realize that those are my superpowers. These are the things that draw people to me. These are the people that trust me to um, find the answers if I don't know the answers, or work with them hand in hand to find the answers together. And so I realized that the story they were trying to make me believe, which of course for a period of time I did because I thought, okay, I felt kind of a little bit like the square peg trying to fit into the round hole or vice versa. Um,
Mhm.
but just really, coming to terms with that. And for me, at the end of 2019, when I was restructured out of my job and then having worldwide shutdown basically, for in the beginning of 2020, um, this was really, first of all, there was a grieving period for sure,
Yeah, yeah.
because so much of my identity was tied up with what I had done in my corporate career.
Mm.
And so it was an interesting journey working through that. But as I came working through that journey, I realized that no, the story that they were trying to make me believe wasn't my story at all. It was theirs. And just realizing that they really, my kindness and my sensitivity and treating people with a sense of fairness and looking at the world in that way was my superpower, not a weakness as they wanted to make me believe that it was. So it was just really, it was an interesting journey for me because it did take time for me to come to terms with that. But yet there was an inner knowing already that that was the case because when they were trying to tell me that was what the story was, I realized, no, that doesn't sound right. That can't be right because that didn't make sense, at least from my perspective of the world. So, um, I couldn't see how that was beneficial to anybody to be, hard in the way that they wanted things to be hard. So, yeah, it was just such an interesting journey to do that. And that's really how I approach my even my work with my clients now, both from my personal, from my graphic design clients, as well as my collaborations, is I always approach from the place, because that's what feels intuitive to me, is to approach from a place of kindness, empathy, and compassion, and starting with self first,
Mm,
because we really need to give back to ourselves and really get back to what are our inner sense, to and shut out the noise that comes at us daily. So it was one of those things where I that's my it's a little bit different way of approach working with my clients that way too, because just reconnecting them to that sense of being kind to themselves and reconnecting to their own creativity, because it's there, they've just forgotten. Sometimes it seems.
yeah, yeah, it can get buried and neglected and overlooked, when we're focused on other things that may not be in support of our higher purpose or in our best interest. And I love that you took the things that you loved about the corporate world, some of the people and the creativity, and brought that into the right conditions that helped you to truly thrive. And that's where the transformation can happen, is having the right environment, surrounding yourself by the people who share those similar qualities and
Yes.
want to, yeah, bring more of that expression, self-expression to the world. And so what kind of things did you have to give yourself to be
Yeah.
able to do that?
Yeah. I had to relearn how to give myself the same grace and ease that I gave other people,
Hmm.
meaning that it was okay to take the time I needed to grieve, or to rest, or to do the things that I needed to do, so that I was replenishing my soul. So, in order to do that, and around that same time, I was getting a really strong call. I mean, I've painted for a long time. This is one of the things that I really love to do. This is where I can be focused and time just flies. So
Mm.
for me, it was just there was a really strong call as I started to work through the process of realizing that really I'd been given an opportunity to do something more, to be of more of service in a way that I felt aligned to be, that was just the way that felt like a natural way for me to be. And I was getting the call regularly to um, reconnect with my painting, because in the busyness of being in business, of the corporate
Mm.
business, that is, a lot of the times, some of those things were put aside to do other things. And so when I had the opportunity or the space, it's just the calling was calling to paint more, to do more of the things that brought me joy, and reconnecting with that. And so that's why that's become a passion for me too, to help both my clients and in any sense really, is it to reconnect people to their creativity, because it's creativity, of course, as we know. I mean, for mine, it comes out in artistic expression a lot, of course, because that's where my alignment is. But for other people, it could be anything. It could be cooking, it could be baking, it could be singing, it could be playing music, it could be dancing, whatever that looks like, gardening, even like it, whatever that looks like for the person. I want people to be able to remember that, because those are the things that really, as they say, refill your cup, bring that joy and passion back into your soul as you move through the day, because we know that there's a lot of things that pull for our attention and it can be very draining of energy, but these are the things that reconnect us to what we do, really.
Absolutely. And like you hear often, right, that rejection leads to redirection. That's exactly what
Yes.
happened in that pivotal moment. And then for you to direct that into a creative flow, to let yourself land where you're feeling called to. And that's when you know in that moment that your soul has outgrown your role, right? And
Yes.
then you start
I love
doing the
that.
things that feed your soul and
Hmm.
nourish it. And then that translates into so many offerings and ways of service and collaborations. And I'm interested to hear also, because that is one of the things too, that you found your people and people to
Yes,
collaborate with. And this is what we're discovering more and more in the entrepreneurial world, especially for heart-centered leaders,
yes.
is the collaboration piece. And so share a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's I've always I mean by nature I tend to be a very collaborative person anyways, even in my corporate world I was that person. So because I felt we move forward much quicker and more efficiently together than we did if we were all trying to do opposing things. And so
Right.
just taking that and having in a way, having things happen in the world where we basically were shut down and closed off from each other in person for a while. Um, in a way, I consider that a blessing for me because it
Yeah.
gave me many opportunities. One, to meet amazing people that I probably would have never had the opportunity to meet worldwide
Hmm.
via technology, which is amazing to me. Just being and being connected with more heart-centered entrepreneurs, people that are coming from that space of service. It was a new world for me because it was more aligned with me for sure.
Hmm.
But it was definitely a different world than that came upon me when I was in corporate for all of those years. But yeah, so for the collaboration part, I've been able to have some amazing collaborations, and there's a major one. Is it okay if I mention
Yeah,
which?
Jan, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I have an amazing partnership with Jan Jeremias, and we've co-created Spirit Born Imaginings together. And it's such a wonderful space because this is another piece of the passion behind what I do is, like I said, reconnecting people to that self-nurturing, being able to give back to themselves and to reconnect with that. And so with Jan, we've created some great spaces for workshops and things where people can come and they can reconnect with a little bit of like meditation and a little bit of physical stretching and different things, Reiki, all sorts of things of that nature. And then also a creativity piece where we have an activity that's reconnecting to creativity without judgment, um, and just allowing it to happen. And so these spaces, we always joke, Jen and I have a joke among us. It's like we get as much out of holding space for people in the sense as the people that participate do as well. So it's kind of like a reciprocal kind of thing because we
Hmm.
feel we're being of service to people and they in turn bring us so many inspirations and insights that it's always amazing to us how uplifting it can be. And that's basically that is what our tagline is uplift, inspire, and transform. um
Mm. Love
because
that.
it's we just love creating those spaces together. So yeah, it's wonderful things. And for us, we have also we do like Zoom audios weekly on a Friday. So they just basically we do them as audios. We started out on LinkedIn where there was only audio,
Hmm.
and we moved it onto Zoom when they discontinued that part of it, and we just continued with just the audio portion of doing that. There's somehow the conversation can sometimes be even deeper because people don't feel like they're on display, I guess.
Mm.
Um, but they're able to share their heart, and we always speak to inspiring, topics or things that may be coming up for us that we say, hey, what do you think about this? So it's just having that kind of collaboration where it just feels like it's like a warm hug. That's what I always say, Jan. It feels
Yeah.
like a warm hug. Just being in a space
Mm.
where people can, reconnect to themselves and realize that they aren't alone on this journey, because that's the other part, right? Is that
Mm.
no matter what we do, whether we're working, um, a corporate job or working for ourselves, sometimes we feel like we're on this journey alone and that the experiences that we're having are really isolated to us. And when we, through these conversations and through the workshops that we do, there's the realization that comes that we are not alone in our
Mm,
journey, and
hmm.
that the specifics may be different, but the emotion and the feeling behind it is very similar. And so there's a power to that. It's very empowering
Yeah.
to realize that that's the case, because to realize that we're not alone on this journey, because we all need those people. We need to build our own community, and that's what's important um, for Jan and for me as we're building Spirit Born, and any collaborations that we're doing, is just to build that sense of community, feeling like
Yeah.
that we aren't alone on the journey, and hopefully growing in the purpose in the process of doing that, right? So
Yeah, yeah, that community and that sense of belonging becomes a true lived experience and not just something that we might recite, as an idea or a thought
yes,
that we're not
yes.
alone. It actually becomes an embodiment of that and that sense of belonging. You said something earlier too, though, about giving back to ourselves. And it's interesting to conceptualize that because a lot of people, especially overachievers and those that are very driven, purpose driven, that they're actually doing enough, and that they're have a trouble understanding that why would I give back to myself if I'm not giving enough? There's always this
Mm,
idea that underlies that we're not doing enough or giving enough
yes.
or being enough. And so the idea then of giving back to ourselves is almost reflects on that sense of worthiness, right? Or the
Yes.
imposter syndrome or all of that. There's some inner struggle there
Yes.
about self-care and taking the time, engaging in soul care and truly giving back to ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we've become depleted or burnt out or exhausted. We don't have the energy even to do that, right? To be able to do
Yes.
that. So going back to how do you give to yourself when there's nothing to left to give, and also to realize that you deserve that. You
Mm-hmm.
deserve your own self, your own love. There is something that you can give yourself that feeds your soul, that can ripple out and actually have a tremendous impact on those you serve, in a different way that becomes not so much about pushing with effort, but becomes again that embodied lived experience that radiates
Mm-hmm.
outwards, that becomes expansive when you're in community of those doing the same. And so, yeah, going back to that, I guess it's a two-part question is how do we deem ourselves worthy of giving back to ourselves? How do we know when we can and when we do and when the right time is to do that? And then how do we do it? How do we give back to ourselves?
Yeah, really, I guess it's really it for me, it's was learning a sense of awareness, of being really aware, because I can only speak for my own journey. For me, at the end of my corporate thing, in a way, it was a blessing when I was restructured on my job, because I realized after the fact that I was actually burnt out.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so that sense of overwhelm and feeling burnt out. And so my for me, my whole thing now is to be very cognizant and just being aware, taking that time and saying, hey, when I'm feeling tired or depleted, whatever, taking that moment. It doesn't have to be a long moment. It can be a couple of minutes, just to take a moment, just to breathe,
Hmm.
take a deep breath and let it all out, because that in itself is can be a replenishment. I know it's not going to replenish burnout, but it's just being present in that moment. So for me, I like to choose a phrase that, or a word that, for the year. And so for this year, what I chose is intuitive presence.
Oh, I love
So
that. Hmm.
just being present in the moment, listening to what my body, because the body speaks for sure, um, of what I need in that given moment. So maybe for me, it's taking a moment, just to 5 minutes even, to write down in a journal or on a piece of paper, just the things, just to let all of those things out, the things that are running around in my brain, because
Mm-hmm.
for most people, there's that inner voice that can often be quite critical, the one that tells you that you're not good enough and you're not worthy of taking the time. But what it, for me, the learning process was, is that learning that you have to take that time, and give yourself the grace and ease that you would give to a cherished friend or a loved one, and realize that I too need that. And I need
Yeah.
that grace and ease, and to be able to give that to yourself. So one of the things I've been saying of late is like, I love the idea of self-nurturing. It can be small moments of nurturing, going for a walk outside if the weather is conducive, uh, which right now here it's not, but but to
Mm-hmm.
go outside and take a walk and just breathe in some fresh air for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
S- Sit in quiet, listen to music, have a hot cup of tea, read a book. Um, for me, if I have the opportunity, take the time to paint, just anything that really is just going to bring that beautiful energy back into me, so that I can move forward with my day. And does it mean that overwhelm never comes? No, but it's being aware. That's the thing for me, that in this
Yeah.
journey is becoming aware of when my body is telling me. 'Cause sometimes I'm not a very good listener. I'm a really good listener to other people, but I'm not a really good
Yeah.
listener to myself. So,
Mm-hmm.
so one of those things is, it's like when my body's saying, no, you need to rest now. I'm like, no, no, I can just do one more thing. No, you need to rest now. It's like, and it's like when I've started to like tune into that, it's like, okay, I need to
Yeah.
take a time, even if it's just to get up, make myself a cup of tea, sit for a few minutes, read something if I have an opportunity, whatever that feels like, but just taking the time, making the time for yourself. It's not easy, especially if you're a go-getter. I know that, and I know from being in the corporate world, it's always go, 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 and the field that I'm in graphic design is always deadline oriented. So
Mm.
it's just being very aware and taking the moments, like I said, even if it's 2 minutes, just to take in some deep breaths and let the shoulders drop and just sort of bring yourself back into focus, because otherwise, at least for my mind, it goes in 100 directions at one time. So I need to bring it back down. So for me, sometimes that's just spewing out whatever is in my head at the moment and letting it go.
Amazing. Yeah, those are wonderful first safe steps to take and creating
Yes.
that space and yeah, just being able to bring that awareness into what you need right now and to
Mhm.
stop overriding our nervous systems,
Yes.
And yeah, and actually listen, like you say, learn to
Yes.
listen and be patient with ourselves too in the process,
Mhm.
just allowing what needs to happen for you to feel loved and replenished by yourself, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, by yourself. And that has such an impact um, when you can give that time to
Yes.
yourself. And then you start to notice what starts
Yes.
changing around you. It's pretty phenomenal. Yeah. And thank goodness for the pandemic. We brought that up a few times because I love the 6 foot bubble. And it was really interesting to me that it was 6 feet because that's actually the distance of our aura on average. So us being
It's
able to
interesting.
come fully into our own energy field once
Mhm.
again, and be able to truly connect with ourselves and then re-enter the world in a whole new way and see it through a different lens and be able to live in it differently. And
Mhm.
so thank goodness for people like you that are reminding us gently of, what our strengths and superpowers are and how we can give to ourselves, especially when we feel like there's nothing left to give. And I really appreciate that. And you also mentioned that you're a graphic designer. So how
Mhm.
does that fit into the picture in what you do? What's your individual mission with that?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I do all aspects of graphic design, but a lot of my clients of late have mostly been they are also entrepreneurs, and so they have amazing, beautiful missions and visions. And I love to be able to lock arms with them and sort of co-create something beautiful with them that really speaks to the authentic voice of their mission and vision. Because, I mean, yes, I could tell them you need to do it this way, but really, is that going to be the thing that sticks with them? No, they need it needs to come from their space. And so it's interesting why about the reconnecting to the creativity because I had a number of my first clients that I worked with once I left corporate, and a number of them said to me, "Well, I need your help because I'm not creative at all." And I thought, wow, that's an interesting statement because I thought, but we're all creative. That's what my heart told me. We're all creative. And then I realized, oh, they mean artistic. I'm like, okay, so I love being able to reconnect people to that sense of their own creativity because for me, if they have a beautiful mission and vision for this beautiful business that they're creating and they're bringing into the world, they are creative. They've just lost the perspective of what creative means, and like I said, it doesn't have to mean artistic. It can mean any number of things, as I was mentioning earlier. I mean, baking, gardening, cooking, drawing, painting, writing, singing, all of these things are creative. It's just a matter of that perspective, and so I love. Bringing, I know it's a trite to say, I love bringing people sort of to an aha moment. I work with them to create, I ask them to provide me with some images of things that they love.
Mhm.
Doesn't have to be
Oh,
related to their business.
oh,
Just things that when they look at these images or they look at these things, they look at it and they go, oh, because when they say in their heads, obviously they go, oh, I love this. And they share that with me, and I usually create like sort of a vision board for them with these things because they say they're all over the map, like they think that their
yeah.
brain is all over the map.
Uh-huh.
And then when I put together things and I show them perhaps there's a theme with colors or just the whole feeling of whatever it is, a thing, because there usually is a connection point, and I put it to them, I love to see their reaction when they look at it and recognize themselves, because it's
Mm.
they look at it and they have that same reaction. They go, oh, because it's that moment when they've reconnected to that creative part of themselves, the part of them that really knows what's best for them.
Yeah,
With all of the noise of things happening, bombarding all the time, sometimes that kind of gets lost in the thing
hmm,
because there's so
yes,
many things. They get overwhelmed. It's like anything, right? They get overwhelmed with people telling them they need to do it a certain way when that certain way may not feel like it's
yeah,
that. So
right. Yeah,
I love being able um to sort of, like I said, lock arms with them and co-create something with them because I want them to feel like they're as much as part of the creative process. Yes, I may be
yeah,
doing the actual art. However, I want them to feel part of it so that they feel that this is their authentic selves, their authentic things, because really that their brand and their logo, that's them coming out.
absolutely.
That's them.
Absolutely. Amazing. I love that, Mary Jane. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going to share the links for all the things that you mentioned, your collaboration with Jan, that site, and the site for you as well as the graphic designer. We'll have those
Amazing.
easily clickable in the video description below. So love providing those resources for the audience. So those will be available there. And of course, you'll find out more about my work outside of the podcast down there
Yes.
too. And the Sacred Leaders Compass is like something I offer freely as well for people that are looking for that recognize, when their soul outgrows their role and how do
Hmm.
you turn that into something different. And so that information's down below as well. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Mary Jane?
I my I guess my main thing, I know I mentioned it earlier, is just to remember that kindness, empathy, and compassion, starting with self first, is so important because only then can we ripple that out into a world that really needs it.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you so much. I love you, Mary Jane, and I love you, each and every one of you that have been tuning in to Awaken and Ascend. We will see you again next time. Maybe you'd like to share this with someone who could use a little love, a little inspiration right now, a little empowerment, nudge, and giving back to themselves. All right. Take care, everyone.